2, 1.
Megan Swifty.
Wow.
LaCroix.
How have you never had a Choco Taco?
Well, I don't know what a Choco Taco is.
Do you do MMA? Because you're really wide.
So tell me, what's in your beverage center?
You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
No, my eye twitch isn't bad right now.
Let's talk about the process. How are we going to help you obtain the best home at the best possible price, terms, and conditions?
Don't say it.
Welcome to episode number
23.
23. Real banter with Nick and JT. Is it 23 or 24?
It is, yeah.
Okay, it's my first episode without a laptop in front of me. I feel naked. I feel exposed right now, so I don't have anything to look at. We're going to freewheel it here today. But we are prepared. So this is a new little venture for us. So we already did a wonderful interview that we'll talk about in a second. So we're just kind of doing an intro, outro today. Kind of excited about that.
That's right.
What's new with you?
Things are good.
Yeah? What's
just,
going on?
Just finished lunch. Before that, had a wonderful, this may have been a first, side-by-side haircut.
That was nice.
My guy here.
A little bonding time.
Yeah. Spur of the moment. It was like 11 o'clock. I was like, man, it's so hard to get a haircut. You're like, well, let's go for a ride. I'm getting one right now. Just got the haircut. And I swore during the haircut, I was going to say this a minute ago, Nick's barber mentioned that his dad was up north bear hunting.
I almost asked him that.
And I swore Nick was going to go, all right, so I have to ask, would you rather be face-to-face with a great white shark or alone in the woods with a grizzly bear? I swore it was coming.
I had it on the tip of my tongue, but the conversation went in another direction. And I thought it would have been weird to bring it back up again.
I was actually smiling and starting to shake my head.
You should ask. You could have spoken
No,
up.
because I knew you were going to do it.
Wait, so where up north?
He said Canada. That's all he asked.
Canada?
That's all he said, I should say.
Okay. Oh, so he's probably hunting like grizzly bears.
Canada's a
Black
big
bear.
country. I asked,
black bear. Okay,
I asked
black bear.
grizzly. That's what I said. And
Yeah.
then he says no black bears. I go, that makes more sense, I guess.
He
But depending on where they are in Canada, who knows?
Yeah, well, you could hunt grizzly bears, but that's a bit more of a challenge. You feel more comfortable with black bears for sure.
Ballsy. Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, black bears. You can find black bears up in New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine.
Absolutely.
So
Lincoln.
Lincoln sometimes too. Yeah.
He's like, so my dad's up in Canada hunting bear. And I was like, oh, boy, here we go. And then Nick goes, oh, what's he hunting, grizzly bear? And I was like, yep, setting it up. And then he veered off topic.
Oh, that's the worst when you have a bit ready to go.
I know.
And then I will full on stop an entire conversation and be like, guys, we need to just address this one thing or else I won't be able to move on mentally.
Okay.
Has anyone
my
asked
day.
Lauren?
No. Lauren, hypothetically speaking, I know you're not on microphone. You may have to go over there and hop on Nate's mic. We have a lovely intern in the office here today.
Hello.
Lauren Rose.
Howdy.
Lauren, would you rather come across a grizzly bear while hiking in the woods, like a full-blown, grizzly bear on its hind legs, got to be 12 feet tall? Snarly, a snarly grizzly bear. Or would you rather be swimming up on the Cape, having a lovely summer day and come across a great white shark?
Like bigger than Jaws, like car stuck in its teeth.
Truly, I'm gonna pick the shark because I always
Yes.
said if
What?
a shark attack is pretty cool. Like a bear attack, that's not that cool. A shark attack that's pretty cool.
I agree 100%.
And you can also hit the nose of the shark, and that makes it go away.
Hold on.
Lauren's the smartest person I've ever met.
Shark? So many problems with what I just heard. A shark attack is pretty cool.
That's the first time I've heard that take. That's wild. That's wild.
Nate and I had the same concerned look.
It's pretty cool. It's not. Yeah, I haven't heard that
Also,
one.
if Jaws is face to face with you, I don't know that you're gonna just smack it in the face.
Yeah, no. This is a fundamental misunderstanding about how shark attacks work. A grizzly bear will rush you, and you can usually see it coming. A shark comes up from underneath you and swallows you whole. Have you ever
Holds you
seen
down
shark?
and
I didn't say you were being hunted. Actually, sharks come up to people all the time.
Yeah.
And actually, I read that you don't want to punch it in the nose because it's hard to connect underwater.
Careful.
What they do say now is, I watch a lot of shark shows, is you just have to redirect. You have to maintain your posture, maintain where you're at, and just redirect gently if they come up to you. They're just going to be curious. You know?
yeah.
They're just curious
Gently
creatures.
tell the shark, no, better
just
meet over
redirect
that way.
over that way.
Yeah, if you,
Whole, so you can still be alive.
that's true. Yeah,
Do you want to be?
This is terrible for a podcast because no one can hear what you're
I
saying.
didn't know that.
Lauren said that it's pretty cool because a shark could swallow you whole and you'll still be alive in there.
I just realized that we hired a sociopath for our social intern, which is kind of awesome. Honestly, that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
We'll have to get her mic'd up next time.
You could redirect it. If you are Steve Irwin and you come across a shark from Finding Nemo who's a vegetarian, yeah,
Greg Scoble.
maybe.
Greg Scoble's the man. That's what he said. Just go
Fish
read it,
are
yeah.
friends, not food.
Yeah.
If you come across that guy, you're probably okay. but most sharks.
Yeah.
You're talking about like a test bite though. That happens
Yeah,
where they
all the
test
time,
you.
yeah.
But you said, would you rather come across?
Yes, I
Yeah.
didn't say get hunted by. I
So-
said come across.
You have to take a follow-up question now, though, because Nick is saying, I never said hunted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you could choose, would you rather be hunted by...
If I was going to be
Jaws.
ambushed by one or the other, I'd be ambushed by a bear over a great white shark because you got no chance.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think if you just run across one in the wild, I think a shark is more likely to be less interested in you than a grizzly bear would be, in my opinion.
Lauren has info. I don't think I want to hear it.
Bears are statistically more dangerous than sharks when it comes to human fatalities. Bear-related fatalities in the U.S. and Canada from 1900 to the present outpaced shark fatalities by over 4.5 times. Whoo, boy.
Try asking if one is hunting you, which one is more likely to succeed.
Yeah, let's get specific with it. And
Before we get too far away, too, I want to know, what do you guys think of John's new haircut?
I like it. I think it's good.
Rate
Yeah.
it. 0
buddy.
to 10.
You were. I have to rate it.
Yes.
Live on air.
On the air. Yeah.
Compared to like his other haircuts. John takes umbrage with the parameters that you've laid out, but I'm gonna play ball. I'd give it a. I like it. I think it's a solid 8.5.
Wow.
Better
Yeah.
or worse look for him?
I kind of like it better. I would have taken the fade up a little bit higher.
We're gonna
on
do
the
that next time.
Sides. I recently had a similar thing happen to me because there was a woman. I go to like Supercuts or wherever, and the woman who cuts my hair, she's very angry all the time, and but she does a really good job. And I saw the last time I went, my hair goes very fast, so I have to get it done like every couple weeks, or I just get lazy.
Even with that haircut? I would think you were like a once a month guy.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, those flowing locks, you think you could last a while.
no, my hair grows super fast. So I went to her again recently, and I was kind of trying to avoid getting my hair cut by her because, again, she's very angry. But I was like, she does such a good job. So she was doing my hairline, and she goes, "Oh, your hairline is kind of higher up. Have you ever tried a fade, like a high fade?" And I said, "Yeah, a long time ago." She said, "I think it would look better with your neckline." So she did it, and I thought it looked a lot better, a lot cleaner. The only thing is you have to get it cut more often to maintain it. So you're going to have to go and get it done a little bit more often.
Or
But-
2 weeks.
We're going to have a every 2-week date now.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say next time, take the fade on the side up a little bit more.
So towards the top, as you were saying, when
Yeah.
I walked in and you were like, I would have gone a little higher, pal.
He actually said he was going to take the skin fade a little bit lower, like a low
He was going to bring the
fade,
skin
but-
fade lower, and he's going to do, instead of like a 1.5 or a 2 up here, he's going to do a 3.
Yeah, sure. Yep. That would look good. But I would say like where it disconnects, I typically like to disconnect a little bit higher up on my head, but that's just me. I go for the Peaky Blinder.
We're going to work on it.
So John was very nervous about always going to a new barber. He hates going to a new barber. So we took him along. Not only was it a barber, it was an apprentice.
Okay.
Took a while.
Yeah.
But he did a good job. I'll
He
give
did a
him
good
credit.
job. Yeah. So anyway, we're halfway through the cut, and I'm looking. I'm like, oh god, that doesn't look very good.
Oh, thanks.
You didn't say that though.
No, of course I did. And Zach was like, "Have you ever thought about a skin fade, John? Like Nick's getting, like he's getting a nice skin fade right now." And John's like, "No, I never did that before." I do it.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, it can't get any worse.
Do it.
And then I'm like, "You have to put a bag underneath him because he's going to absolutely soil himself."
To
you
soil
know?
himself.
Yeah.
Soiled it. Yeah.
So being honest, did it turn out okay?
Yeah,
Or
it's good, yeah.
'cause apparently you weren't buying it halfway through.
So do you think that the apprentice was cutting in a way that maybe would have turned out bad, and then the other guy said, maybe you want to.
I'm sure he would have pulled it all together because I think
Yeah.
always then when they start on the sides, it always looks kind of weird
Sure.
until they're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the stage he was in. I'm like, I'm sure it would have come together, but
Better not to tempt fate. So what were the results, Lauren?
It was depending on the environment.
Depending on the environment.
Oh,
so
boy.
whether you're in the woods or the ocean.
Yeah, if you're in
Yeah.
the woods, your odds are better with a shark. If you're in the ocean, take the bear.
It's actually the opposite. Sharks kill way more people in the woods.
Bears
Yeah.
are more likely
In the woods?
you can't outrun a bear,
You cannot outrun a bear, but you can't outswim a shark.
but sharks they're not interested in a bite.
A test bite.
Yeah.
That's what people say. But if they're,
Yeah, but what if they are interested?
if they attack you, most of the attacks from sharks is when they mistake people for
murky
seals.
waters.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
But then if they go for you, you're done.
Wetsuits, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
If they would come up and thinking you were a seal underneath, and they did, done.
You've
absolutely.
seen them, the
But
way
like
they
Lauren
flame
said,
things up in the air.
yeah, hell of a way to die.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Get
that'd
flung
be
out. Yeah.
badass. That you'd be surfing USA.
Yeah,
Rest in peace, Brian Wilson.
Or like Lauren said, just hang out in the belly of the shark. That'd be a cool experience.
like Job. It's pretty nice down here. I still
boy.
get reception, so you can watch your TikTok videos.
Awesome. All right, let's move on here. So I got to ask you boys, how are you guys making out? Spring market. I know there's a lot of stress in the air lately. How's things going?
What's stressful?
I gotta say, the last 2 weeks have felt absolutely bonkers for me personally.
I
too.
can't.
There's a lot
Like
going
I
on.
physically feel like I can't breathe.
Yeah, a lot going on.
Yeah.
Jesus.
How do you cope with that?
I don't know. It depends on the day.
Have you started seeing a therapist yet?
No.
Do you want to have sessions together? I can
Sure.
help you out.
Sure. You know what's actually? You know what's been kind of peaceful?
What's that?
sit in the hammock?
Because I get home and try to spend some time with the kids,
Yeah.
but then it creates like more anxiety because I know that the work is looming over me.
Okay.
But so what I've tried to do, it actually delays my work even more.
Make your
But I've
kids do
tried-
the work for you.
I should try that actually. But what I've done
Child
to
labor.
kind of like clear my head a little bit is put the kids down. And then before I dive into work, I've been taking Cash for a nice little walk around the
Look
neighborhood.
at you.
Yeah.
Killing multiple birds
Just
with one
kinda-
stone.
Get him out. His dog walker doesn't come anymore, so we're going to need a new dog walker, but get him out.
What do
Enjoy.
you pay a dog walker?
You ready for this?
Yes.
Little side story for you here. When we hired her, she was our former neighbor. So she comes in and she was recommended by a friend as well. And I was like, all right, so what do you charge? She's like, oh, I don't really set a fee. But
That's
most
dangerous.
That was bad.
but most people, she's pretty good. You know, she threw a little Phil Jones at me. She goes, most people pay me like $1 a minute. And I was like,
a minute.
I'm sorry. What? You're walking my dog
How long is she going to walk the dog?
30 minutes.
So that's $30. That's not even that much. That's not even that much money, really.
That's $60 a week for the girl to take the dog around the block.
So she comes once a week.
Twice a week.
Oh,
Hence the $60 a week.
right. So she comes twice a week to
Dude.
walk him 30 minutes.
Do you tip on top?
No.
Whoa,
She's
you're
not
cheap.
a company.
I feel like that's a
That's
spot
pretty
just-
reasonable
you get a tip.
price, I would
You
say.
get
You think
tip.
$1 a minute is cheap?
I think I wouldn't go out and walk someone's dog for less than $30.
Oh, yeah.
You're not a
like,
20-year-old girl who lives at home.
Okay.
He has the skin of a 20-year-old girl.
Thank you.
Lauren,
You're
would
welcome.
you walk a dog for a half hour for $30?
Yes.
She is working here for free as an intern. She's like, I do anything for money, right?
So I think you just found
Do you
your
want
new
to
dog
walk? Do you
walker.
want to walk my dog? Yes.
We'll talk terms
Yes.
after.
Absolutely.
You're getting 50 cents an hour, 50 cents a minute.
Absolutely. You're hired.
All right. Well, before we get too deep into this, the weeds here, let's move along. We got an interview that we're very excited to share with everybody. This is the new direction of the podcast where we want to bring on industry leaders, top agents, coaches, experts in various fields like social media, things along those lines. So our very first industry interview is with none other than Kristi Jencks, a top coach in the Tom Ferry organization. John, any immediate takeaways from the interview?
Oh boy, now I'm trying to remember.
It was like 4 days ago.
Spring market, man. What I found interesting was kind of going back on, because I've had several calls with her since then too, so I have a lot of things mixing in my brain. But I recall her now talking about like her journey into coaching. She wanted to coach before she ever got into the business. She was told she had to be in the business for 4 years first, so that was an interesting journey. But yesterday she talked to our team a lot about mindset and not looking at something of like, I can't do that, or man, I wish I could do that, but simply what would have to change for that to happen.
I love
So I
that.
thought that was a great call.
My top two takeaways, one is something I preach all the time to new agents and that I definitely believe in wholeheartedly, and that's simply taking action. You know, far too many agents look at all these different strategies. They go on these webinars, they look at these posts from these influencers, and like all these ideas are wonderful, but so few actually take action. And I'll even add on to that, taking consistent action. You know, like I was saying to the new agents in boot camp recently this past week, like, listen, we've got the playbooks, we've got the standard operating procedures, we've got the roadmap that's going to help you become successful, but I cannot do the work for you. I can show you everything, but it's ultimately up to you to take that action.
Fire in the belly.
Fire in the belly. You gotta have that grit, you know? And my second takeaway was I loved how she kind of left us with, you're capable. You know, you certainly are capable. Everybody has that ability to achieve whatever level they want to achieve. They can put in those strategies that are going to help them get to those levels. So I think taking action and you are capable are kind of my top 2 takeaways from our 1 hour call. I could have gone much, much longer with Kristi. I wish we had.
Oh, definitely could have gone
multiple
longer.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to have her back on again. So
Yeah.
without further ado, you want to jump into the interview?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Let's go.
Today's guest is a total force in real estate, Kristi Jencks. She leads the Big Helper Group in Phoenix, coaches agents across the country with Tom Ferry, and is known for helping people get organized, focused, and into action. So whether you are building better systems, dialing in time management, Kristi is the go-to. We are super excited to have her here today. Kristi, welcome to the show.
Welcome. I'm super excited. Like, I'm slightly intimidated that I'm not going to be able to keep up with the banter.
I'm sure you can.
I don't know. You guys shoot some SHT on this podcast. And I was like, I don't know that I'm that funny. I don't know that I'm that funny at 7 a.m.
It is bright and early out there in Phoenix right now. Sorry for that. So appreciate your accommodating this East Coast time, though, for sure. So, and trust me, Kristi, if JT can chop it up and throw some funny lines around, I'm sure you'll be just fine. So
there we go.
Kristi, why don't we kick it off? Why don't you share a little bit about your background, your history in the industry, kind of who you are, what you do, that kind of thing. I know I gave a little bit of an intro, but tell us your story and how things started.
Yeah, so I think it's always relevant to know that real estate wasn't my first career. I don't know how many of us actually set out. I mean, there are some people that I know that are like, I'm going to be a realtor, right? But no, I used to sell textbooks and train teachers, and that was a huge passion for me, training, using technology, helping people with a product that they purchased, and it gave me a great opportunity until there was no more money in education. It's a little sad, but that's what happened. And at the same time that I was doing that, my husband Merrill, you know, he was just crushing it in real estate, but he was just all over the place. And so he came to me and he was like, I think it's time for you to be my assistant. And so I did ISA, I did transaction management, but that was like just a second because I hated that. And I just started full in and took on every single role of the team until ultimately I went to a conference, a Tom Ferry conference, and I saw this guy on stage and I was like, I like his energy. I like his message. I want to do that. And I immediately called up the office and I was like, how do I become a Tom Ferry coach? And they're like, well, how long have you been a realtor? I was like, 4 months. And they're like, yeah, that's not going to work. And so I did my due diligence. I waited the 4 years to be able to become a coach. And I remember like the minute that clock hit 4, I was like, I'm in. I want to do this. And so then I became a coach for Tom Ferry. So Merrill and I still sell real estate here in the Phoenix metro area, mentoring, coaching agents, and we have I'm a full-time mom, full-time realtor, full-time coach. Those are kind of all the hats that I wear, and that's where we are today.
Now, a mom to how many?
8.
That's absolutely amazing. The fact that you pull off all that you do with 8 children, it is, I mean, that could be a whole other podcast right there. So
it could be. I don't know how you do it.
You know, it's funny because and you guys know this, especially JT with young ones. When I first came in, we basically had baby triplets. Mm-hmm. So our youngest are 11 months apart. And that was probably the hardest. Like that was legitimately the hardest because every morning it was, getting 3 babies ready plus the 5-year-old and the 6-year-old and right. Like it was just like boom, boom, boom. And now they're all asleep until noon. So the youngest are 12 and my daughter just turned 18 this week and graduated high school a little over a week ago. That lives at home. So still living at home. It goes from 18 to 12. So it's all hormones, drama, and the good fun part of parenting.
Oh, I hear that. Yeah, I think it's now I get home and they barely want to talk to me. So it's like, oh, great, I'll just go work more, I guess. I got nothing else to do. So it's certainly totally different than the first 12 or so years of life, that's for sure. So that's awesome. So you started out in textbooks and kind of the education side. Do you think that kind of was what sparked you to want to get into coaching, Kristi? Or what was it? Or was it just the Tom's energy up there jumping around on a trampoline?
Right. You know what? It's always been a part in me. So I was thespian club president. And for those of you guys who don't know what that is, it's kind of like the drama club president, but the serious side. I was in charge of basically the curriculum and making sure that our drama club was up to par. And I actually lettered in theater in high school, and it was just a huge passion. But much of what that translates to is energy and being able to inspire and motivate and encourage. So I've always done that. I did it in church. I was always a leader in church and speaking and doing that kind of stuff. And so it was really fun for me in every different area that I've worked in. I just knew that I had this part in me that wanted to help educate and inspire. And so if I wasn't doing it in real estate, I would be doing it in another field. It's just always been a part of me. Whenever I see somebody that needs help, I want to, I think back to, I used to be a massage therapist, and when I was in massage therapy school, I started a study group because I saw there were kids that didn't know how to study, and I was like, oh my gosh, if you can learn how to study, you can learn anything. And so I started a study group, and I taught them how to study, and we did different things. So Tom is a big part of it. His energy kind of got me excited about this sector and being in real estate. But I knew all along I wanted to do motivation and encouragement and just help people take action.
Love that.
You're good at it.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Well, you guys take action, so that's easy.
We'll get into that.
So you were talking about, you run your own team, you're an amazing coach, you have the 8 kids. You have to be pretty organized and good at time management, which I know you've said is like your superpower. Can you think of one system or habit that has really changed the game for you?
Well, so I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but Jim Gaffigan, he talks about in one of his sets about what it's like, having as many kids as he has. And he's like, imagine that you're drowning and then someone hands you a baby, right? And that's exactly what happened to Meryl and I. We went from 0 to 3 kids overnight. So I had vacuum lines, a pristine house, everything in order. Like, I mean, when you don't have children and you just have 2 dogs, like your life is easy. It's different. It was challenging in different ways, but everything was where it was supposed to be. I was only in charge of myself, getting myself to a location, all of that. And then you wake up and there's 3 humans that are all under the age of 5, and they're looking at you to get them dressed, to feed them, to do all that. And so I knew early on, I was like, whoa, this is something's got to happen right away. And I knew that we needed to create systems to help us be more organized. And so that started with a nighttime routine. So we started packing diaper bags at night, and then that led to, when I came into real estate, it led to, I thought you were picking up the kids. Wait, I'm picking up the kids? And all of a sudden, I mean, we did leave a kid at church once. And that's no bueno. You should not leave your kids at church. But what ended up happening is Meryl and I started to have these weekly planning sessions, and that was probably one of the biggest game changers as a family. But I see that translate into business owners, into entrepreneurs, is the ability to just forecast for the next 7 days, to forecast for the next 14 days, right? Like, I already know I'm traveling 7 days in June. And so for me to travel 7 days in June, that's moving a lot of different pieces and creating a lot of organization. So the biggest piece is this planning session where we forecast and we look ahead and figure out, where do I need to be? And then as a family member, that's, who's picking up Julia tonight, who's taking Julia, and then having a specific assignments too. So inside my business, I know my assistant takes care of specific aspects, and there's things that I'm in charge of. And as long as I can take care of the things that I'm in charge of, then things get done. At home, that's ordering groceries. I'm the one that orders the groceries. And if mom doesn't order the groceries, we don't have milk in the house, right? And so there's just the planning aspect of just taking time each week to look ahead and then figure out who's doing what and when it's being done. Probably the easiest thing a person can do if they're feeling like life is a little chaotic.
Love that. JT and I started doing a same page meeting each and every week. It's made such a difference. So I should probably start doing it with my at-home wife, so it's probably make a little bit of a difference there too. So.
I like the name of that. We need to coin that, the same page, because that's what you're doing essentially, is you're getting on the same page meeting. Yep. I'm writing that down.
Love it. Cool. So regarding coaching, Kristi, what do you think some of the biggest misconceptions are that agents have about coaching, and what makes a successful relationship between a coach and an agent or team?
Well, the most common misconception is that you're going to hire a coach and then within 1 or 2 calls have everything figured out. Everything's, all of a sudden you just made an extra 30,000, 50,000, 100,000, right? All of your systems are in place, and realistically, it takes time, right? Like to get the movement and the growth, most people come into coaching looking for something particular, right? Like they need help with marketing. Some people just want accountability. Some people want idea generation, system structure, teach me how to be organized, teach me how to grow a team, help me become more profitable. And so the misconception is that it doesn't take time, right? Coaching is not a magic pill. It's systematic, and we cover layers. I mean, if you think of our coaching relationship and where we started versus where we're at, we've touched marketing, we've touched your tech stack, we've touched agent accountability, training, onboarding, recruiting. You can't do all of that in your first 4 calls. Mm-hmm. And so there's, having a little bit of patience of that. What was the second part of that question? So that's the most common misconception.
Yeah, second part was kind of what makes a good relationship between a coach and an agent or a team, or what is needed for that relationship to really thrive?
Transparency. That's like, so you guys have a scorecard. That was one of the really cool parts of when we interviewed together. We operated off of a common vernacular, right? And so that scorecard allows me to call you guys out when things aren't right? And you could call yourself out, but oftentimes, like if you're just an individual agent, sometimes you play a soundtrack in your head or a story, and it's just like nobody's buying because interest rates are so high, right? So all of a sudden I'm not having the amount of conversations that I should be having, but I'm playing this story, and now everything's reinforcing. But if I were to look at my scorecard, right, all of a sudden I see, well, I'm not getting the deals because I'm not going on appointments. I'm not going on appointments because I'm not having the conversations. I'm not having the conversations because I'm not doing my hour of power or my call session or even spending time. Like, when's the last time you logged into your CRM, right? So transparency, and I look at coaching relationship, and I tell people, I was like, if you're going to coach with me, one of the things that you need to know is that I'm going to touch all aspects with permission, right? So I had a call yesterday where the vast majority of the call, probably 70% of the call, was just on mindset, because this individual was really depressed and just wasn't showing up in a way that they were used to. And I could tell something was off, and then all of a sudden it came out, and it was like, I'm just not feeling myself. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to see people. It was like, whoa, okay. I can't just say, make your calls when you are feeling that way. And so the fact that this person was able to share that with me, we created a game plan for them to go, I had them rate themselves. It was like, when you're on fire and you're a 10, right? And then you're feeling just really bad. You don't want to see anybody. You don't want to make any calls. You're a 0. Where are you at right now? And there's like a 3. I was like, okay, this week we're just going to focus on going from a 3 to a 4. How do we get you to a 4? It's like, what would make you a 4? And they gave me some examples. We landed on one. And I'm really confident, because we had that conversation, when I speak to them next week, they'll be at a 4, maybe even higher, because we laid a path that I know is going to be successful. But then there's also the transparency in money. Some agents, they sell a lot of real estate, but at the end of the day, they don't take home a lot of money. So having the tough conversation around finances, having the tough conversation around their health and wellness, that's important to me as well. I never want someone that I'm in a coaching relationship with, I don't want anybody to have their health suffer because they're working so hard, helping other people build their dreams.
I think you perform better. Obviously, if you're looking into those kinds of things and you take care of yourself, I mean, it's going to show up in all aspects of your life, no doubt about it. Not that I'm a pillar of health by any stretch, but I'm certainly working on it, that's for sure.
Yeah, but you guys started your walking, right? Like you guys started your walking and
club. Yep, absolutely. So we've fallen off of that a little bit, but still getting some exercise in, doing well, eating better. So yeah, we're still working on it for sure. So.
Although, wait, hold on, I did listen to the episode all about the hot wieners.
Oh yeah. That doesn't help.
Those are not healthy. Kristi, I think it was great that you were able to discover and dig into that client yesterday that wasn't feeling themselves, because when we first got into coaching, I thought it was going to be mostly accountability. Make your calls, do this, do that, holding us accountable, which we certainly need. And I think everybody needs. But I feel like that has not been the biggest takeaway for us. We're always amazed at how we get off a call with you, and there's so many just light bulb moments where we're like, how have we never thought of this before?
Every single time.
It seems so obvious. How have we never thought of this? And like, that's the game changer of just getting those little nuggets every week and building and building and building on them.
It's an outside third party that can look at it in a different perspective. It's so critical, and it is definitely true. Like every single time coming out of there with action items, sometimes too many action items, like, oh my God, how am I going to get this done before the next call, but it's all good stuff, and it's just absolutely mind-blowing every time to get that perspective, and it's been so incredibly helpful.
So you bring up a really good point that our calls are not highly focused on accountability, and that's because you guys are highly accountable. So maybe, JT was thinking like, oh, we're going to hire a coach and they're going to, hold my feet to the fire to make sure. Here's the thing, you guys don't struggle with doing, you have such a high level of commitment to your goals, right? So I loved a recent podcast with Ed Milet, and he talked about the difference between goals and commitments. Your goals are not going to get you what you want. It's your commitment to your goals. Such a good podcast. And you guys are so committed to the vision, and you have such a huge why behind it that for us, it's a lot more tactical, right? And again, to Nick's point, I'm outside of it. You guys are in it every single day. So for me to be able to just say, well, have we ever thought of, or what would it look like? Of course, you guys are like, you're treading water and I'm handing you a baby. You're like, oh my gosh. And so I think that's a big difference is some people, I actually do have some people, and this is very difficult for me. And I think I even remember telling you guys this when we interviewed together, that I'm not the coach that will hang up on you, right? So like if you guys came to the call and you were like, we can't get this done, and I wouldn't be like, well, I'm hanging up, go do your homework, right? I'm not mean. But I can be very abrupt and very direct when needed. And that's also part of that coaching relationship, is that honesty and transparency. There are times when you do have to say, hey, I don't think this is in your best interest, or I see a pattern coming up. And I do have relationships where they want me to be not, that adage is, are you motivated by the carrot or the stick, right? The reward or the consequence. I have a couple clients that are like consequence driven, and this is what it looks like. I was like, okay, if that's what you want, if you don't make this, and they set their own commitment. I'm thinking of someone that I have a call with today. They said they wanted to do 10 hours of lead generation. And I was dubious based on this person's track record. And I was like, I said, I'm not confident you're going to do that before our next call. And they're like, no, I'm going to do it. And I said, okay, so let's put some skin in the game. Like, what happens if you don't do that? Because again, that was their goal. And it's good for their business. I know that they need to do it. And I know that they're capable. So it's not that they weren't capable. It's just that I know the track record of this person. And they said, then you can transfer me out of your schedule. I was like, game on. Like that tells me you are absolutely serious. So I'm going to get on a call today with them, and the first thing we're going to get out of the way is open up Mojo. Let me see it. Open up Follow Up Boss. Let me see it. And if it's not there, it'll break my heart. And I actually, before the call, I said, please don't break my heart, like on the next call. And they're like, I absolutely won't. And sometimes you do have to, as a team leader, as a broker owner, as a sales manager, sometimes you have to do that. And I have had to have that level of commitment with someone and then transfer them out of my schedule. I had one gal, this was hilarious. I had one gal tell me that she's like, she was pregnant, and she wanted to do a certain level of production before she had the baby. And we had identified her lead pillars, and one of them was open houses. She's like, I'm really good at open houses. I can convert open houses. Like, okay, so babies due here. How many are we doing, right? And I know what it's going to be like. Like, she's also in Georgia, so it was in the summer. So I was like, let's do it. And she picked a number, and I said, okay, so what happens, right? And we painted the full picture, guys. Like, what will you get by doing this? How will, going into the hospital, how will you feel knowing, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever she was going to take, like, how will it feel knowing you did all this work, right? So we had a very clear goal in mind, but I could feel her waffling. So I asked her, I said, okay, I want you to take the next week, and next week I want you to come with me with, like, what is the consequence? Because she was not motivated by, she was the stick versus the carrot. And she came back and she told me that she'd have to shave her eyebrows off. And I was like, your husband is going to hate me if you don't do this. Like, I'm like, what if they don't grow back? I was so uncomfortable with this, but it was her idea. And so it was really funny because I had my assistant actually make a couple memes of her with no eyebrows and different things like that. And so if she was falling behind, I'd send her a picture, be like, do not do this. Do not do this. She did all of her open houses. She didn't have to shave her eyebrows, but it was really, I love those magical moments when we can find the right leverage for someone that truly is struggling with accountability and commitment to their goals.
I was on a podcast. I was listening to a podcast recently. I can't remember exactly which one, but a team leader was telling a story about trying to motivate somebody in a similar fashion, and it came to politics. And I'm not one to really talk politics a lot, but they asked like which political party they were kind of in favor of, and they were certainly like very strong on one side. And he said, well, if you don't hit your commitments over the next 2 weeks, you're going to make a $500 donation to the other party, whatever it might be. And that person actually got pretty motivated by it, hit those goals. So certainly some people, I guess, respond positively to that for sure. So
we got shirts made for a couple of the team members because they were similar. So I actually went online and bought the shirt of the party that they didn't like and hung it on their chair and said, you will wear this for an entire day. We're going to follow you around, post pictures, and tag you online if you do not do this. They did not have to wear the shirt.
I can imagine. That's motivating. So circling back to mindset, what are you seeing right now between agents who are really struggling and kind of really not hitting the goals that they want to hit, the production they want to hit, versus agents that are thriving in a very different and tough market in a lot of parts of the country right now?
You hit it right on the head. There really are two different agents right now, and your guys' market is very different from mine, right? You guys have still multiple offers, a shortage of inventory, right? Like you guys have a different scenario where much of the Sun Belt, so like Florida and Texas and Georgia and Idaho, Arizona, and even parts of California are starting to cool, and so you have people, like I have clients in Savannah who are crushing it, thriving. Inventory's up 70%, right? Like, it's not, I have clients in Florida absolutely crushing it where they have a lot of different factors. And so the difference between an agent who's surviving or thriving comes back to the soundtracks in their head. So that's actually one of my favorite books. It's called Soundtracks by John Acuff. And it's an incredible book all about the stories that we tell ourselves, right? So we put things on a loop and then we look for reinforcing that. So the agents that are thriving, they're not waiting for the market to give them anything. They're actually making the market. Now, let's just put that into context. during the pandemic, an agent could have 30 conversations to 45 conversations and probably sell 2 homes a month, if not more, right? So, sorry, 30 to 40 conversations a week. 30 to 40 conversations a week, sell 2 homes a month, easy peasy. I mean, it wasn't easy because it was a lot of work and a lot of running and a lot of reactive because of the multiple offers, all of that. Currently, that number is more like you need to be having 100 to 200 conversations a week. And that's not easy. That's intentional. That's time blocking. That's prioritizing. That's letting go of things that no longer serve you. And so can you make money in a down market? Absolutely, because the other side of the coin are the people that are saying, well, nobody's buying, nobody's selling, the market's hard, interest rates, this, that, and the other, when realistically that person just hasn't pivoted, hasn't like really hit rock bottom, if you will, and taken a look at what is a good day of work look like, right? How many agents do you guys know that are like, I work all the time, right? And then if you were to actually like open up their phone and see how many phone calls they made that weren't just to other agents or transaction related, or go into their CRM,
Yeah.
how
Scroll
many
Instagram.
real estate? Yes, that's
They're watching
it's
videos. They're seeing other people market their own business. You know, it's crazy.
Haven't locked into the CRM.
yeah. I mean, and that's something that we look at too. So the mindset, it really is protecting your mindset. So I start out every day listening. So this morning it was an Ed Milet podcast. Yesterday it was a Jason Pantana AI training video, right? Like every single day in the morning before I go into coaching, going into my call session, anything that I'm going to do, I want to start in a positive place. For some people, that might be praying, that might be meditation, that might be journaling, right? It doesn't have to be this hour-long thing. For me, it's while I'm getting ready. I feed my mind with positivity. I cut out, although I am getting sucked in with Musk and Trump. I'm like, that is fascinating. And I'm like, stop, you do not want to go there. You do not want to go there. But no, I protect my mindset. I feed, what you focus on expands. And so for those agents who are, if you're listening to this and you're feeling like your pipeline isn't as full as you want, if you're feeling like the market is really hard, it probably is. And what are you going to do about it? Right? Like you have to take action. You have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So
Can't
much
just
gold
dwell
in
on
that.
it.
No, I mean, taking action, obviously, that's the one thing I was preaching yesterday in the training course in our boot camp was like, listen, we can give you the strategies. We have the playbook. We have the email templates. We have the text templates. We have, the weekly plan for you to lead generate. But if you don't take action, we can lead the horse to water. We can't make the horse drink, So, I mean, the action is so critical. And also, I think a down market, as you kind of touched upon a little bit, is such an opportunity for the true pros to shine. I came into this business in 2007-ish, and then very quickly it was the Great Recession. And it's like people would be complaining nonstop, and like all of a sudden my business started growing year over year during that time frame. And people are like, how you doing this? What's going on? Like, it's one of the worst markets of all time. And it's like, it's all I know. So at the time it was kind of easy to say that, but I think when you learn how to actually market, how to have conversations, hold open houses, ask the right questions, talk to people, that's going to lead to success in the future. And when, the market's great, obviously you reap the benefits, but when the market's down, it's so much easier to stand out versus the competition.
So much easier to stand out, just show up, right? Jeff Mays, he was the first person I heard say this recently. He says, what's working? Working. Right? Like just do the work, One of my coaching client calls it, he says, I'm gonna say my favorite swear word, WORK is my favorite 4-letter swear word. And I mean so why do you think so many agents don't take action?
I don't think a lot of people like to work, so
They don't like to work. They don't believe it's actually going to work or turn things around.
I did one open house. It didn't work.
It didn't
It
work.
didn't work.
It didn't work.
I
They don't
love
want to feel like they're annoying. Another big one we hear a lot. I don't want to annoy people. It's like
Yeah.
if you follow up with value, if you're giving value, if you're prospecting with the right message, not this, hey, I'm checking in. I want to see if you're looking to buy or sell a house. You know, you've got to provide value, be that educator. You got to know what's going on in the market, study the market. It's so critical that like we hear all the time, like, hey, I love your newsletter, I love your podcast, I'm learning what's going on. Even though we're not looking to buy or sell, I tune in because I want to know what's happening in our local market. People always want to know what's happening in the market. People don't want to be sold to. They want to think of you and be ready to buy when the time is right for them, and you'll be top of mind. So.
That's exactly it. It keeps you top of mind, and you have to do it consistently.
Consistently.
I loved one thing Tom said. I think it was at Elite in the early 24, where he said, for things to change, something has to change. You can't just keep doing the same thing or nothing and expect different results.
That's so critical. So doing something, right? Like, and then the one thing that I would say is take action. And if it's not working, are you taking enough action? I think a lot of, especially if you're in a struggling market. So if you're listening to this, watching this, and your marketplace is not giving you the opportunity, you're probably not taking enough action. You know, I joke. So right before while I was getting licensed, we had a baby, and we had multiple babies, but one baby in particular was brand new, right out of the hospital. And this is going to sound terrible. You guys got to remember, this was like way, way, way pre-COVID. I also grew up in a car with no car seat, and I'm here. So don't judge me too harsh on this, but Merrill took our son Red to open houses. Like Red was he was in a carrier. He was brand new, and he was like, I want to say 3 weeks old. And Merrill's like, I have to do these open houses. And I had not completely transitioned into real estate, and Red was too young to go to daycare. We didn't have anybody here locally that could watch him. And so Merrill's like, you know what? I'm just going to take him to the open house. And we joke that I think Merrill sold so much real estate during the 3 weeks that Red was a baby going to open houses, like doing open houses with Merrill in his little carrier. But it was like, he knew that he had to take action. There was not going to be an excuse. And I'm not a proponent of taking your baby to open houses, but what I'm saying is action, right? Taking enough action. And then I remember showing homes. And I had my kids in the car with me. Like, so it's Saturday and Sunday when the daycare's not open, you don't have any family, your husband's booked, you're booked. I'm like, load up, Anna, Elsa, Olaf in the DVD player, get them, some Sonic or whatever, and let's go show some homes. And we made the most fun out of it that we could. But during that time, because obviously being a real estate family, it was all commission based, and I had no experience. It was just, you do whatever it takes. And so, yeah, we worked 7 days a week. You know what I mean? We worked 7 days a week. We were able to provide for our family. Now, fast forward, see, this is also probably a problem, is people look at us. My daughter is getting licensed, and I think even she looks at us and says, well, mom and dad have it so easy. And it was like, no. The business that I have now that comes most by repeat and referral is because I worked my face off and I did a good job and I maintained those relationships and I educated about what was going on in the market, helping my clients all along the way, doing what was right no matter what. That's part of the reason I think that we are so aligned, Kristi, with the Slocum, is that we do what's right for the client no matter what, right? We're going to put that's going to come first. So yeah, it's a little bit easier for me now, but I will tell you, it's still difficult right now. Like, we're having to go out and make those relationships happen. We're having to get creative on our outreach and on our problem solving because, there are 4 stats that I'm actually going to talk to your team about this on next week, but there are 4 stats right now where we've completely shifted our listing presentation to be able to address what's happening here in the Phoenix metro area. So the first thing that we're discussing is that the listing success rate here is at 69%. Now, I know that's not the same for you guys. So a third of all the people who are trying to sell their homes, and who's trying to sell their homes are people who need to sell, right? No one's testing the market right now. This is in here, Phoenix. We're not testing it. So 69%, right? The second number is the original list price to the sales price. That's 90%. What that tells us is that agents are still overpricing, and that homeowners are still thinking of 2022 prices, even though we're 3 years in a row of a declining market. 4 years actually, when we dig into the numbers, it's the days on market is right around 80. So of the homes that are selling, that doesn't even include all the ones that are coming off the market and are not selling. But of the homes that are selling, it's taking around 80 days, right? And about a quarter of all the deals are falling out. So you're having to get really gritty, really creative, hold deals together, price homes correctly, know your stats, know your numbers. And at the same time, guys, our marketplace last month sold right around 6,000 units. So 12,000 commission checks. There's absolutely no reason that I can't get a couple of those if I'm just willing to, wake up, get my head on straight, prioritize the activities that are going to get me the conversations that will lead to contracts and closings.
Love that. So many different ways we could follow up on that one. But speaking to listing presentations, and I'd love to jump back to the Phoenix market in a bit, but speaking of listing presentations, you spent a ton of time on the road over the last year with the Listing Edge Tour with Tom Ferry, Jimmy Mackin, Jason Pantana, David Childers. What's that experience been like for you, both personally and professionally, to be up on stage with the heavy hitters that we just mentioned?
Oh, it's so exciting. It is really fun to be the female. But no, so actually one thing you need to know about Jimmy is he's actually really funny. Like, he is super, super funny, such a good spirit. And just like, he is brilliant. Like, we will sit in the green room, and by the way, the green room can just literally be a closet off the side. It's like, it's not as fancy as it sounds, but no, we'll be sitting, in a prep room, and we'll just start going back and forth with ideas. And he truly never stops thinking about opportunities for us real estate agents. Like, he's constantly going, and he's like, what do you think about this? And what if we did that? And then he just ties it in with humor. Jason is just brilliant when it comes to thinking about how this technology can be leveraged, and the way that his brain works is fascinating. And Tom's energy truly is what you see on stage, what you see, and you're like, oh my gosh, how did he, is he always like that? Oh yeah, he's always like that. I mean, he's always like that. And he's constantly as well thinking about us as real estate agents and what can happen. And in terms of the consumer and being on the road with them, what's amazing is hearing the stories of resilience, right? So great markets like your market, Buffalo is on fire as well. Buffalo, New York, I have some clients there that it's like, it's crazy. I'm like, how do we live in the same country? It's just so different. But hearing the agents just showing up and doing the work. And then I get a lot of personal fulfillment when people message me and they say, hey, I tried this strategy and it worked, right? I did this, I believed, I made this one tweak in my presentation, because my part is really focused on sharing strategies like some of the things that Slocum does that work, and why it works, right? Why are we presenting this way? How are we shifting in the listing presentation? So I get a lot of fulfillment when people try things and it works. It makes me super excited.
Awesome. That must be interesting, traveling and seeing like agents in those down markets who are struggling and have to attack things one way, and agents who are in markets like ours or Buffalo where it's just on fire. And it feels like some things never change. So that's interesting. And you had the opportunity to go to Jackson Hole and plan for Tom's biggest event of the year. What was the energy in that room like? Just can you tell us a little bit about that?
I had a slight panic attack like the day before. I don't know if you guys, if you've ever like planned a trip with somebody and you're like, oh, I don't know if this is like a 2-hour friend, if this is, or a 2-day friend. And in this case, it's like, we had this huge compound. It was absolutely gorgeous. And, the guys had their own, like, it was the barn, but it wasn't really, it was barn. But they had their own apartment. The girls had their own apartment, and Kathy and Tom in the main house with some of our great leaders of the company. And I had a little bit of a panic attack of like, I'm going to be waking up, eating breakfast, walking, working out, like from sun up to sundown. we're all going to be together, and what's that going to be like? And it was absolutely magical to see how Summit comes together, and how we take the needs of our clients and of our community, and really start to say, okay, how can we package this for them so that they can walk away with the strategies and the tactics they need to hit their goals. And anytime, so this is something that I've known, but to experience it over the course of numerous days, anytime we started to feel a shift in our energy, we would get up and go for a walk. And we would just continue the conversation outside. And that gave us the ability to start really early and end really late, because and so if you're ever in a call session, like if you're ever feeling like all of a sudden your energy, like get up, do a lap, do something, change your environment, because that's what we did. And some of our best ideas came during the walk, and then we were all getting out our phones, taking a voice note, doing different things, or right when we came back. So we would, because if you're going for long sessions, so it was an absolute magical experience. We are changing some things up this year, and trying to pack in even more value, more takeaways, highlight more of our clients to be able to, bring forth the strategies that are working and helping them thrive.
That's so cool.
That's
It must
awesome.
have been quite the experience to be in those rooms. I know for one, with our new office, I can't wait to change the environment, go out in the front lawn, go for a walk with John, although it's going to be very difficult to do that because he has very strict parameters on how the temperature can be outside if he goes for a walk. So it's a little high maintenance on that side, but we'll figure that out as time goes on.
72 or less, we'll go for a walk. 73 or higher, we're getting in the car.
He needs one of those little fans, right? The little,
Yeah.
like around his neck.
Well, we were out on the porch yesterday. It was like 90 and humid, and Nick thought it was great. And I said, you take it now. In January, I'll come sit out here and watch the snowfall, and we'll rotate.
Unbelievable. Kristi,
But
so you're big on systems, productivity, automations, AI. Where do you see the industry kind of evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
I worry. I worry for people who think that this AI is just like a fad, or that it's not that important. I worry for those agents, because the agents like you who are leveraging it. I mean, when I first became AI certified a couple years ago, I was able to eliminate, with just a click of a button, I was able to eliminate $1,000 of expenses every single month. So $12,000 like that, right? Where could I put that back into my business? So many different things. Then as I started to dig in, it was like, oh, I can get rid of this tool. I can get rid of this tool. I can, and I actually ended up letting go one of my VAs because I didn't need them anymore, because this technology was doing it. So it's like the ability to just be more efficient is great. But then I remember, like, if all you're doing right now is writing a listing description, you got to step up. I mean, the way that we can utilize AI is impacting everything that we do, and it's going so quickly. It's changing so quickly, and I'm not going to personally learn how to use N8N, right? Like some of that stuff. Will I personally create an AI agent? Probably not. Do I know what it is? Do I know what it can do? Yes. And then I'm going to hire someone smarter than me who knows how to do that to implement it into my business. So I'm not saying that every single real estate agent needs to become an AI. They don't need to be Jason Pantana, right? But they need to be aware of how automation and AI can be used in our business. Just think within your CRM. Since moving to FUB, right? And now that you have the ability to have the calls transcribed and have AI coaching wrapped in, what has that done for your agents?
It's been absolutely amazing. I mean, the ability to look at those calls, be able to coach up to those calls, find weaknesses, things along those lines. And even just beyond that too, you can analyze it. Like, I know we were talking at one point about using Claude took a listing presentation transcript, had AI analyze the disc profile of the seller and create a customized action plan to follow up with that seller based upon their disc profile. So I mean, the possibilities are endless. It gets me super excited to consider everything you could do with all of that. So I know
Can
John
role play.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if you're not using the voice mode, like my kids actually tease me, and we had a graduation party for my daughter a little over a week ago, and I was in the kitchen, and my husband's in the kitchen, and I just opened up ChatGPT, and my ChatGPT is a man, my husband's is a girl, but I just, I started talking, I just went into voice mode, and I was like, we want to do, and I just started talking out loud with it, and my kids were looking at me like, Mom has her own Jarvis. I was like, yeah, dang straight I have my own Jarvis. Like we're using AI, creating tools like custom GPTs and things for so many different areas of our lives. And so, what do I think about it? I'm excited. I think it's amazing. Do I think it's going to replace a real estate agent? Because that's another question I get a lot. I don't know. I can't tell the future, but what I do know is that ChatGPT is not going to be my best friend. You know what I mean? ChatGPT I actually tell mine, I want you to be completely honest with me. Like, don't agree with me on everything, right? Because it's like, oh, Kristi, you're so smart, and it's always trying to puff me up, which is nice. But I'm also like, okay, cut the crap. Did this suck, right? Like, I want you to, tell me you can tell me 2 things I did well, but I need to know what can I do better. And so you can't automate relationships, right? That's something that I can't stress. I use automation in my business for so many incredible things. But at the end of the day, I know that you have 2 daughters and I know that you have 2 sons. You know what I mean? Like, there are things that I know about you and your personality and how you like to do things. And, picking up the phone and going through the forward questions, just, talking, that's never going to be replaced, right? And if you were nervous about something, would you feel better talking to the AI or talking to the human who's been there and done it? Maybe it's a combination of both, right? So maybe you do talk to AI and then you get reinforcement from the expert who can truly listen to tonality, can read the body language and can see and infer what's really going on and why you're nervous in this transaction. And then we just use AI to, dot our I's, cross our T's, and be better and be faster.
You mentioned you worry for the agents who are like just using it for a listing description. Is there one tool you can think of that is underutilized and that people need to adopt to just really not get left behind, for lack of a better phrase?
That's actually, I'm going to write that down. I'm going to come up with like the top 3, the top 3 things you should be using AI every day for as a real estate agent. So I don't have that done, but something that I find really, really, really practical is like, don't try to figure it out by yourself. Right? So again, use it to write listing descriptions. In the beginning, they're going to be terrible, by the way. Like, you really have to start to learn how to prompt, and actually don't even need to learn how to prompt, just find a custom GPT, like there's ways that you can get around it. But if you're trying to, we were just negotiating a trust issue in a property, right? And we got a bunch of different quotes, and we were like, what's the difference? Like, we just went straight into AI and started to talk about the different, like, help me understand, is this really an issue? Is this not an issue? How common is this? Like, we just started to go. And so at the end of the day, if you're stuck on something, just open it up, talk to it, like talk through it. But then, like, role playing, you mentioned role playing, John, that one's huge. That one's absolutely huge. I role play critical conversations, and I'll just say a critical conversation because it could be a conversation that I need to have with my husband, right? And I just want to make sure that my intent is coming across, that my word choice is well, and help me think through this. This is how I know he's feeling. This is how I'm feeling. How can I bring us, to common ground? So it could be role-playing critical conversations with friends and family. It could be, I used it the other day to de-escalate someone on social media. So this person had messaged me on social media, and it was a mistake on their part, and they started to do some crazy things, posting on my page inappropriate things, and on 25 different posts. And I woke up to this, I woke up to this crazy messages and things like that. And what's that?
Was it John?
It was no, but I went in and I was like, hey chat, here's what I'm dealing with. This is what they said, and this is what's going on. How can I de-escalate? Give me 5 options to de-escalate. So we role played back and forth. I role played with that. They helped me put together a script. I sent that over in a message. I'm so sorry. I'll take everything down. To do that on my own would have taken a significant longer time, because I would have but I was able to kind of do that whole scenario maybe in 5 minutes, where it probably would have taken me 30, 45 minutes on my own, and a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, trying to figure out what's the best course of action to get someone to do that. That's a simple example. So every day, so ChatGPT is probably one of my favorite tools. It's not the only tool, and I use different tools for different things. But if you're newer to AI, we went into a property and we didn't know what something was. We took a picture and said, hey, what is this? They gave us the model number, said, how do we fix this? Sent us videos on how to fix it, the use case for it. We used it to give so took a picture of a kitchen and sent it over to someone to get a quote, and they said, well, do you know what the surface space is? I said, no, but hold on. Went back to ChatGPT, said, as long as you can give me a correct measurement of one edge, I can figure it out. So I called the homeowner and said, what's the length of this? They gave me that. ChatGPT was able to then help us figure out how much countertop space, all that stuff. I was like, mind-blowing.
It really is.
It is.
That's wild. So many great tips there. And one of the other ways that you provide so many tips and resources is through your newsletter, Take It and Run. Kind of what was the backstory behind that? How'd that come to be? How's that going for you? And, is that open just to coaching clients, or is that kind of open to, how do you handle that?
So Nick actually inspired me on this.
I didn't ask for that reason.
No, but I want to give credit where credit is due. I saw what you were doing for the agents at the Slocum Home Team, and I was like, this is brilliant. I was like, I love this so much. And, it's a tactical strategy, a tip. And so I went back to my assistant and I said, check out what he's doing. I absolutely love this. I want to put something together that I just send out once a week, because agents struggle to get appointments, right? And so I said, I want it to be tactical. It can have a little bit of motivation. Every once in a while, we get an idea that's not exactly tactical, and then I have to remind us, get back on target, and it's got to be tactical, something they can implement to go get an appointment this week. And so it was really inspired by what you were doing for your agents at Slocum. It's open to everybody. So I believe if you go to my Instagram on my link tree, you can sign up for it. But it's open to everybody. The idea behind Take It and Run is to just, if you're struggling or if you don't have an appointment, here's something you can do this week to get into action. So again, really big on action. And, now we're actually, I haven't announced this. Many of my coaching clients don't even know this, but I was like, we should take this a little bit further than just the newsletter. So I've recorded a couple episodes of the Take It and Run podcast where we are actually digging into a little bit. It is rough. I don't have a Nate. it's a little rough, and that's why I haven't been like promoting it heavy, because we're still getting through some of the technical issues on microphones. We've changed microphones 3 times. I think we finally landed on microphones. We use Riverside. We're doing some things, but the idea is the email newsletter is something that you can put in the podcast. We're interviewing other agents kind of like this, but then we're also going through some of the common questions that I get, and so that content's just out there to help everybody, not just coaching clients.
That's awesome. So cool. Definitely recommend signing up for that. It will be worth your while for sure. So I know we're coming up on time here. I know you have a very tight schedule and you live to that. So I'll give you one deeper question, then we'll do a quick closing lightning round with some rapid fire questions.
Fun. Okay.
Yes. All right. So last one here is, back at Elite in the team event last year, Rory Vaden was up there talking about what's your one word. And John and I both came out of that with different things, but personally, one of mine was really legacy. I'm a 3rd-generation broker, obviously family owned. I want to leave behind some type of legacy here for my kids, future of the business, all those kinds of things. So what is the legacy that you want to leave behind to your kids, your clients, your coaching clients? What is it that you hope down the road, people think of Kristi Jencks, they think of this?
Ooh, you should have emailed me that beforehand. You're capable, right? So just off the cuff, and it's not one word. I thought you were going to ask me my word. I'm like, it's right here. I have my word, but that's different. What is your
word? Out of curiosity, then we'll circle back.
It's clear. So okay. I have right there, clear. The reason that it's clear is I want clear scans. As you know, I went through cancer last year, so clear scans, clear on my intentions, clear on my why, clear on my goals, clear on the path. Like everything is this right now moving forward is through clarity and clear. But in terms of a legacy, I think it would be, I want people to know that they're capable. Whatever it is that you want to do, you absolutely can achieve it if you just take action. And so many people don't take action because of doubt, because of self-belief, and they don't think they're capable. So if I had to distill it back down, it would be that you're capable.
Love that.
That's awesome.
Cool. All right, 6 rapid fire questions. We'll close it out. JT, take us away.
Do you have time for 6 before we do this?
Yeah.
Real quick answers. Boom.
One book every agent should read.
Atomic Habits.
Most underrated skill in real estate.
Personality profiles, understanding personality profiles.
Cool.
One question you wished agents asked more often.
What makes you say that?
That's a good one. Phil Jones.
It's a great one.
What's your real estate pet peeve?
Do I filter that or do I filter that?
No, let it fly. We're shooting the SHT right now.
I really hate it when agents just send over an offer and it's like the DocuSign envelope and then you have to go, or when they send over multiple, like if you're going to send over an offer, organize it, put it together in order. Do your client justice by presenting a clean offer and don't just email a bunch of garbage over.
And pick up the phone and talk to the agent about the offer. That's not what drives me crazy.
Yes.
Couldn't agree more. What's the best advice you've ever received?
You have to edit a bunch of this out because I'm just thinking the best advice I've ever received. There's so much. I think go for it. Like just go for it.
Oh, I like that.
I like that too. All right, last question. Hypothetical situation. You are hiking in the woods, around a corner, you come ahead in front of a grizzly bear, all right? Other option is you're swimming at the beach, having a grand old time, you come across a great white shark. Which one are you choosing and why?
I'm choosing the bear.
Brutal. Right, so come around. She's from the desert, so.
No.
I don't know if I can outswim a shark. I think I have some strategies for the bear. I really don't know what I would do with the shark.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm a shark guy. John's a bear guy. It's very divisive.
I'm with you, Kristi.
Absolutely. So, All right, Kristi. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You shared so much. This is absolutely going to have a ton of takeaways for our listeners. I can't thank you enough for jumping on. We had, I don't even know, a dozen more questions that we wanted to get to. So I am sure that one day we'll have to have you back on. But thank you so much once again, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Kristi.
Hot damn, that was something else. My God, I am sure anybody who got through that, I'm sure has a million takeaways. But John,
Could have talked for hours.
tell me about coaching, John. So you've been in the business how long now?
15 years or so.
Jesus, I've been in 19, almost 19 years now.
Wow.
Time flies.
a long
It
time.
certainly does fly. And it was about what, 17 years for me, 16 years before we ever even got into coaching. Certainly had some mentors, had a lot of great agents that I could, kind of call upon, different people in the industry that we followed and leaned on for advice and strategies and, things to put into action, as Kristi so eloquently talked about. But certainly I think, finally, I don't want to say giving in, but committing to coaching has been one of the best career decisions during my 19 years. What are your takes on coaching, John?
Absolutely. Like we said in the interview with Kristi, coming into it, and for years I thought coaching was more of just kind of like make your calls, do this, do that. Why aren't you doing things, and just holding you accountable, which is a huge piece of it. But as Kristi said, ours is more tactical. And every call we come out of just kind of saying like, how have we never thought of this?
It's like a light bulb moment every single time.
You can always count on it. And it's much more tactical. And that has helped it push us forward time and time again.
Yeah, that third party perspective, just somebody from the outside looking in, certainly from a non-emotional standpoint. Obviously, I'm sure she feels connected with us and whatnot, but having somebody from the outside looking in is just a different perspective, and it adds so much value to our business each and every day. So I would say to any agents out there, if you've never explored coaching in the past, it took me far too long to realize its importance and its value, and I certainly would recommend diving in and committing, as long as she said, you're willing to actually roll up your sleeves and do the work.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So that's my takeaways. Anything?
Yeah, no.
Production.
Nate Dogg.
How many teams does she coach? Like, how much coaching does she do?
I don't know her exact number of clients, but
I want to say she said something about like 28 clients or people in her calendar recently, and she's toned down.
Yeah,
because she's been on the road with TF.
Yeah,
the last year or so. So she's really toned it down.
Yeah, I think it's important to have that objectivity, like you said, someone who can work with all different teams, and so she kind of sources information and amalgamates it from all over the country.
great
right?
word.
Amalgamates.
Word.
That's
He has a big vocabulary.
Nate
Sometimes.
Webster over there.
Yeah.
sometimes. So she kind of can source it all, and that way you get different perspectives and everything, and I'm sure it helps you. It's region specific, like you said, but there are things you can take that are general. For everything. And then she seems to be very intelligent, well-spoken, like the peppiest person I've ever seen.
The peppiest.
Oh, the
She has
energy.
so
is-
much
is
energy.
off the charts.
Always.
And she uses that positive energy to do to help out teams like us. So it's a
Yeah.
great thing.
Yeah. I recently put out a Tuesday Tactics email about the 5 C's that are required for success in real estate, in my humble opinion anyway. And one of those C's was charisma. And let me tell you, Kristi's got the Riz.
She does. Oh my God.
Oh,
Lauren is
she's like, I cannot believe this old man just said that.
She's got the Riz, the Rizzler.
Rizzler.
Yeah.
Kristi the Rizzler. I love it. All right, cool. Hypothetical question. We got one? We have one lined up?
You just
Lauren,
put your
what do we have
laptop
over there?
down. What do we got? I have to do it.
Would you rather have to survive a night alone in the Amazon rainforest or spend 48 hours locked inside a haunted asylum?
Oh, it's not even a question. Rainforest all day.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah, I agreed.
I would take an asylum.
Yeah,
Haunted?
I
Like a
agreed. It
truly
wasn't.
haunt-
I agreed. It wasn't a question. I would go in the asylum.
You would? Over the rainforest?
You can't survive a night alone in the
You don't think
rainforest.
I could easily build a shelter fairly quickly enough to shield myself from jaguars and whatever else is in the Amazon rainforest?
There are snakes the size of this building,
Okay.
and hide. Bugs will eat
Oh, wait,
you
hold on.
alive.
You think there's snakes the size of this building?
Yeah, at least
That
as
may
long as.
be hyperbolic.
All right, at least as long as this building is long, and they're probably like as round as like as big as Nate is.
I don't know.
What
I
do you say?
think
Saying it's round.
Wait, if
Yeah,
I had
no, John's the round one.
Barrel
if I had a
chested.
day, like if I crashed at 10 a.m. in the morning, like, and I had the rest of that day to hopefully build a shelter for that night, do I have that luxury, or am I dropping into the rainforest at 8 p.m. right before the sunset?
You can have a week to build a shelter. This is adorable.
The fact that he thinks he has the survival skills to build a lean-to.
in the Amazon.
I watch Alone on Netflix. I can handle it.
The snakes, insects.
Okay,
Get
here.
bit by a spider.
I'll
or
give you guys
worms would be inside.
Have you ever
You're
been camping or anything? Like you just
I have.
stay inside of your house on Blank Drive in Lincoln.
I've been camping.
Blink. Yeah.
I've
good.
camped more than you, pal.
I don't know if you have.
I think I have.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you the real answer, okay? Because it's fairly obvious, I think. So let's say, hypothetically, your plane crashed and you ended up in the Amazon,
Yes.
right? You could theoretically survive off of dumb luck in the Amazonian rainforest,
Absolutely.
right? But there's also a lot of things that could kill you rather quickly. Poisonous spiders, snakes. You could get killed by a jaguar. You could die from exposure. You could drink water. Knowing you're going to be like, I need water. And you could drink water. It's tainted. Your brain's out until you die.
They don't have polar. They don't have
don't-
polar in the rainforest.
You do realize they don't have seltzer water in the Amazon.
Speaking of,
They have caimans
What are you
out
drinking
there.
over there? Is that a fresh
Oh, here we go.
polar seltzer?
Polar crack.
refreshingly natural, actually. Ruby red grapefruit seltzer.
They still haven't sponsored us, so LaCroix is the way to go.
As you're
Family
actively
made
drinking.
since 1882. All right.
Polar
Anyway,
crack.
do we-
Polar crack.
So Nate, give us the real answer.
So that's the odds for the Amazonian rainforest. The other scenario, first off, there's no such thing as ghosts. If there was such a thing as ghosts, how many people have died, been killed by ghosts? Like you're most likely just going to get scared. You know,
You could be mentally broken for the rest of your life if that were to happen. You know?
Jesus. That is an option. That is an option. But I'd say you need a decent amount of mental fortitude in either situation. But like, come on,
So like,
I'd stay in a haunted
we
asylum.
watched The Conjuring. Like, I'd rather spend a night in that house than a
No.
night
Yes.
in the Amazon.
All right.
100%.
It's a good question then.
You would
because we're
rather
split.
spend a night in the Amazon than the night in the Conjuring house?
100%. And I don't even believe in ghosts saying that, but if it actually was the case, like I'm wrong. I can admit I might be wrong sometimes. And in this scenario, if I'm wrong and
That's
there's
big of you.
something haunted and it is that serious, I don't want it.
If it's that serious.
Lauren,
You know
what's
what I
your
mean?
answer over there?
Amazon rainforest.
What?
Oh my God. You know?
We need a fourth mic. We need a
Don't
fourth
ask
mic.
her. She said getting eaten by a shark would be cool.
I think she's
What,
spot
what
on.
kind of shelter do you think you're going to build?
There's like bamboo and stuff, right?
Oh,
Yeah, and it's filled with
my
poisonous
God.
spiders and snakes.
I don't.
I don't want my soul taken.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right. Your soul taken.
Yes.
Yeah. That's much more likely
You're
than
gonna be-
dying from a spider bite. Having
Yes.
your soul taken.
Right, and being possessed.
You watch Ghost Hunters. Okay. And do those guys ever get their souls taken?
Oh, but they could.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's what we're working with here, ladies and gentlemen.
Lauren's super smart. So, any other questions, or are we calling this pot a wrap?
No, we need one more hypothetical. Go.
Would you rather be chased by a swarm of angry bees for 1 mile
Sounds awful.
or have one random snake in your bed once a year?
Bees.
One random snake in your bed.
See, that was a nice one because he heard the first part and he was like, God, that's awful. And then he heard the second part and he was like, no, first part.
I hate snakes. I hate reptiles. All
But you want
reptiles.
Bees. He says
Well,
bees.
and he just said, I hate snakes, but he
Yeah.
wants the Amazon.
Yeah, I
I know.
hate snakes more than legit ghosts and haunted spirits if that actually exists. Yeah, I'll take the snakes. But snakes versus bees, give me the bees.
Snakes versus bees. That's a new one we got to start asking. Instead of sharks versus
Nate?
grizzly bears.
Swarm of angry bees for a mile or a random snake in your bed once a year?
Dude, for a mile straight getting stung by bees.
But you can run a mile in what? 3 minutes? 3.5 minutes?
Not as fast
no,
as the bees.
no,
can
I mean,
you
fly.
and Usain Bolt over there.
One
right?
1 mile I could probably do in like 7, but at multiple miles I'm like averaging 8 minutes.
I
or
think
a
you
little
can break
over 8.
7. We should have a little side.
If
bet.
I was
Have
running
them
for my
run-
life,
Could
oh
you
yeah,
survive the amount of bee stings
That's
that
what
you
I'm
would
wondering.
get in the mile?
that's what I'm wondering. Is if you would just die from toxicity. And I don't know. I'm not allergic to bees. But if you're allergic to bees, you're done.
Oh,
Dunzo,
that's a different story.
Dunzo.
Easy
But let's
question.
just say we're not.
Yeah.
100 miles or a random snake in your bed,
Yeah.
just
Yes.
like overnight.
One random snake in your bed once a year.
Is the snake poisonous or non-poisonous?
Well, it's random, so it would be
It could
different every
anything.
time.
Imagine if a cobra was in your bed. You woke up and it's
Yeah.
Oh,
like it could
I
start.
already have a wife. Hey-o. Hold
that out.
Hold on 1 second. That was good. I'm doing a round of applause. All right. So what do you think, JT?
I don't do snakes. I think I might have to try the bees. But you'd have to try to find water along the run.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Dive in the water.
Like Winnie the Pooh in that one.
Or someone with a pool.
Mm-hmm. Pool or a pond.
Anyway,
Pond might be better
Lauren, what
for
do you
you.
think? It's random. It's random.
Random
New
snake.
snake every year.
Yeah.
I think I'll have to do the bees.
Yeah.
She said the bees.
Lauren and
Can
I,
I-
we're in sync
Yeah.
over here.
This is
Can I throw a
crazy.
third one
You
in
guys are
here?
both
Because I feel like
crazy.
I keep doing the first part of this.
I think that's all we got.
Yeah.
How about that?
I'm good.
How about them apples?
Good pod.
Rate the pod.
Solid pod. I'm going to give it a 9.2.
That's a big number out of Nate Dogg.
I don't know
good
why
one.
he's so doom and gloom over there. I'm going 9.3.
I'm going 9.7.
Whoa!
Whoa. I think that's some of the highest ratings we've ever had.
It is.
Yeah.
Lauren, this is your first one. What do you rate it?
Rating, I'll give it a 10.
10?
Whoa,
10?
Can't get any
I
better.
could never get better than this.
Oh my God. What's getting eaten by a shark? An 11?
Yeah, I guess so.
Crazy kids.
We're going to get her a mic next time, and she's going to be like, 10 and a half.
When we set up the podcast in the new office, are we going to have 4 mics? We need 4 mics.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We have 4 mics. Yeah. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, on YouTube, on Spotify, and join us for more fun shenanigans in the future. Thanks, guys. We are out.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Shootin The SHT. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. And if you enjoyed this content, please share it with others and leave us a rating and a review. Buying, selling, or want to connect with Nick and JT? Visit Slocum Home Team on Facebook and Instagram or slocumhometeam.com. We'll see you next time.